Hi everyone, my name is Mike Hansen and I'm an enterprise customer engineer at Google Cloud. Today we'll be discussing Media CDN origins. We'll learn what they are, why they're important, and how to configure them. Let's get started. Before we jump into the details, let's take a moment to look at the three fundamental components that make up Media CDN. There's the service, which is what contains your overall CDN configuration settings, the origin, which is the location that Media CDN will use to fetch your content, and key sets, which are used to secure access to your content when signing or tokenizing requests. Now that we understand the high-level structure of Media CDN, let's dig in a little bit deeper. So, what is an origin? Think of an origin like the kitchen in a restaurant. The kitchen is what stores all of your ingredients needed to prepare every dish on the menu. And when you place an order for your meal with the waitstaff, they send your order back to the kitchen where your meal is prepared. Similarly, an origin server stores all of your content when someone requests it. The CDN fetches it from the origin and delivers it to the user. On Media CDN, an origin can be located on Google Cloud Storage or other Google services such as Compute Engine or Kubernetes Engine. Or it can be your own data center or another cloud provider. Now, let's dig into 4 important details about origins on Media CDN. When defining an origin, there are a few things to consider. Origins must be a publicly accessible HTTP endpoint and can be defined by an IP address, fully qualified domain name, or by selecting a Google Cloud Storage bucket. The IP address or FQDN can be another Google service, like an application load balancer, for example, or it can point to your own on-premises data center. If your content is hosted with another cloud provider, that's supported as well. Media CDN also supports accessing private Google Cloud Storage buckets via a service account. Simply update IAM permissions to allow the service account to access the private GCS bucket, and you're good to go. This allows you to keep your source content safe from bad actors attempting to access your bucket directly. AWS v4 signing is also supported to fetch content from private S3 buckets. In terms of protocol support, origins can be reached via HTTP2 to take advantage of multiplexing, header compression, and other benefits that are built into the protocol natively. Connections over HTTPS or HTTP on the origin connection are supported as well. Finally, in the event there are any issues with the origin, Media CDN provides the ability to fail over to a secondary origin to maintain overall stability and availability for your end users so they can continue consuming content uninterrupted. Now that you understand what origins are and what's supported, let's jump into a quick demonstration to learn how to configure one. In this demo, we'll be creating 2 origins. The first will use a Google Cloud Storage bucket, and the second will be using an external origin with failover configured. Let's get started. On the screen here, we can see we're on the Google Cloud Console homepage. To find Media CDN, we can click on the menu in the top left corner, hover over Network Services, and then click on Media CDN. The initial page we see is to create the Media CDN service. For this video, though, we'll be creating an origin, so let's click on the Origin tab at the top. Next, we'll click on Create Origin to begin configuring our origin settings. The first thing we need to do is give our origin a name. In this case, I'll be naming my origin Example Origin. Next, we can add an optional description if we'd like, and then after that, we select the type of origin. For the first origin, I'll be selecting a Google Cloud Storage bucket that I created ahead of time. To select your bucket, click on Browse, click on the bucket name, and then click Select at the bottom. If you haven't created a bucket prior to this, you can do so directly from here by clicking on this button at the top. Next, you can decide which protocol and port you'd like to use for the origin connection. Since Google Cloud Storage supports HTTP2, we'll be using that protocol. We won't be setting up failover for this origin, so we'll skip that part. And that's it. Great work. Once you're ready, click the Create Origin button to create your origin. Now, let's create our second origin. As mentioned at the beginning of the demo, we'll be using an external origin with failover enabled. Similar to the first origin we created, we'll click on Create Origin and we'll give it a name. In this case, I'm going to call it External Example Origin. Instead of selecting a cloud storage bucket this time, I'll select the IP and FQDN radio button. For the purposes of this demo, I'm going to use an example IP address 1.2.3.4. Let's assume my external origin can't connect over HTTP2, but I still want a secure connection back to the origin. So I'll be selecting HTTPS, and we'll keep the port set to 443. We also want to set up a failover origin in case there are any issues. This can allow us to serve a custom error page to users depending on the type of origin issue, or simply retry the same request in case there was some kind of a hiccup. I've already created a failover origin, which is hosted on cloud storage, so let's select Example Failover Origin. To create a failover origin, it's no different than what we're walking through right now. Simply create an origin and then select it as the failover origin when creating your primary origin. Next, we'll tell Media CDN the conditions for which failover should trigger. Connect failure is selected by default, so let's keep that there, but we'll also add HTTP 5XX and gateway error in case of server-side issues. After we select our failover conditions, you can define the amount of connection attempts Media CDN will make to retrieve the object before it fails over to the secondary origin. For this video, we'll keep all of the timeout values set to their defaults for now. Once you're finished configuring your failover settings, go ahead and click the Create Origin button to create your second origin. In this video, we created two Media CDN origins, one pointing to Google Cloud Storage and the other pointing to an external origin with a failover to a GCS bucket. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.